multiple reports of Bigfoot sightings here in Ohio last week. But what you might not know is that the Buckeye State ranks 4th nationwide for sightings.
And here to shed some light on the situation is Snake the Bigfoot hunter. Good morning. How are you?
You guys are in the middle of the storm. I mean, bam, there's a Bigfoot, bam, there's a Bigfoot, and then a comet.
Yeah.
I mean, what is going on?
We don't know what's happening.
Do you think?
Well, it's really strange, don't you? I mean,
who knows?
Yeah.
Why do you think it's Ohio that is such a hot spot for people saying that they've seen Bigfoot?
What I'm gathering is that there's a lot of migration.
Okay.
So in the fall in the Adirondack Mountains, they're coming through there. That's when most of the sightings happen there. Now, we had this recently in the spring here in Ohio, and it could be that they're pushed a little further south because of the weather or how the climate patterns are working. So we don't know, but we do know that there has been a lot of sightings in Ohio.
Right.
And it brought me here. Like I was watching, I said, I got to go down there and check that out. And then when that comet hit, I said, oh boy, I'm getting in my car. I got to go down there.
Well, and here you are. How did you get into this?
Well, I got permanently online and started looking at a lot of YouTube videos, and I got lost in the rabbit hole of it all. And
it happens to a lot of people.
And right around then, my first marriage started falling apart, and I slowly started going more into the woods looking for Bigfoot.
Right.
And there's the divorce. Divorce happens.
We were born in America, 20 years in the dawn of America, and it's not so terrible.
Hello, and welcome to American Dreamland. I'm Max Chavez.
And I'm Misty Stone.
Well, we wanted to do another fun one this week, and there's two things that we always are going to get the chance to talk about. How screwed up our respective hometowns are, and, of course, the Sasquatch. And we thought we found the perfect story to kind of deal with that, which just barreled into all of our other consistent, just weird psychosis and Gnostic evangelical beliefs that are prevalent in this country.
Yeah, I mean, I somehow avoided that. Maybe I was just stayed on the safe, just pure Ohio fun.
See, you went for the Ohio fun, and I started to expand to see what some of the other people were commenting on, especially in regards to Bigfoot, and what else they had to say on Bigfoot. I also think you probably stayed on YouTube, whereas I thought I'd get some use out of our Rumble account.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Shipwreck Show. My name is Shipwreck, and I'll be your hostess with the mostest. And tonight I was supposed to have a very special guest on to talk about Bigfoots, but I don't know if he ghosted or if he couldn't get in. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. He's like, I'm logging in right now. And I'm like, okay. And then that was like 10 minutes ago. So it's just us. Sounds like it's just going to be us talking about Bigfoot. Tonight I could talk about politics too. I guess it doesn't really matter anymore. There's so much shit going on. We could just talk about anything. We talk about Cash Patel's girlfriend coming out here, just calling everybody out. Like, girl, who the hell even are you?
Oh, yeah, I did not traverse Rumble, so that is where I saved myself, I think. I stuck to the news. Reddit, I did go on r/Bigfoot. They were very excited. But to start with we're talking about the explosive Bigfoot sightings that we saw in Ohio a couple weeks ago in the beginning to mid-March. The most Bigfoot sightings consecutively that have been seen since the 70s. So the most consistent in 50 years.
I just want to say, George Norrie, what the hell? Because there was this surge of people talking about Bigfoot a couple months ago, at least according to like the videos I saw. And all Coast to Coast did was repost some interviews, and I have seen nothing from contemporary Coast to Coast of George Norrie commenting on this. Really a dereliction of duty.
Art would have never done us like this. He wouldn't have, and we would have been having the talk of also because during this time, after the sightings, really, after most of the sightings, over northeastern Ohio, a giant boom was heard in the sky, and it was a meteor breaking apart over northeastern Ohio. Now, I want to propose to the American Dreamland audience: do we think the Bigfoot sightings and then the meteor breaking across northeastern Ohio is scaring a bunch of people, breaking the sound barrier, if you will? Are they connected?
Well, as we know, if we're to take the prophet Stan Johnson at his word, the Bigfoot are extra dimensional creatures. So
Right.
if there is a flood, there could be, or a flock of them coming, there could be a large amount of, you know, a shockwave from the interdimensional push.
Well, and that's what I was thinking. I was thinking of our boy Stan during all of this. I was thinking, well,
Hmm.
Stan did tell us that they are interdimensional. There are rifts, and I don't know if everybody knows, but Ohio is one of the top 10 states for sighting Bigfoots.
Apparently, it's number one now. It's really
Whoa.
shot up in the last couple months. Well, at least in terms of 2026. But I
And
will also say this is a rare moment of also unity in the Bigfoot community.
I saw a lot of discussion about migration patterns. Are we migrating? You know, it's spring. Spring is a
Mhm.
big time for migration, mating, um, and Logan, Ohio. If any of you have ever been, if any of you are from Ohio, you know of Logan, Ohio, because it's near Hocking Hills, and Hocking Hills is a big touristy vacation spot in Ohio because it has the caves. You can go hiking there. You have Old Man's Caves. Also, Logan, Ohio is known for a lot of Bigfoot sightings. They also have the Bigfoot Festival there, so that's pretty big. Where these sightings were held, though, wasn't really near Logan, Ohio. It's more north and in like Trumbull, Portage County. Portage County is kind of near where I went to college at. I've hiked in some of these areas, and I used to solo hike a lot when I was in college. I have not been blessed with Bigfoot sightings. Sad to say, the only weird things I've ever encountered are just some guy with a hammer walking around, hitting rocks. Why was he doing that? I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, oh, it was mine, but that is just weird. That's not how geologists do it.
No, it was just some kid, really. Probably, I was actually not even solo hiking. I was hiking with a friend, and then there was a family by us, like a mom and her 3 teenage daughters were walking around near Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and there's just this kid who is probably like 19, 20 with a hammer. And I thought maybe it's her kid. No, she didn't know him either, and he just looks angry with a hammer in his hand, and he's just hitting the rocks and boulders. And we're like, is this a problem? I don't know. But he's not bothering any of us, so we'll just leave him be.
That sometimes is the best path of just like, let's just move on. We're not ignoring anyone in pain.
Yeah, we're all like, well, he's on his own adventure, you know. Also, in Logan, Ohio, it can get pretty rural outside that area. And the one time my friends and I went camping, right before I moved out to California, it was me, my one girlfriend, and then our other friend who is a gay man, but you would think he's straight if he didn't talk, and he's tall. This is important context for the story.
Okay.
It is important. He's like 6 feet, and if he doesn't talk, he can pass as a straight man. So we were stopped in the middle of nowhere, bumfuck Ohio, because our friend wanted Sprite at this place called Bud's gas station, where they sold Bud Bowls which were just like knockoff KFC bowls in this like weird heating thing that didn't look like it would pass any sort of health inspection. While we were there, we see these two guys come up shirtless and they start following us around the store. And then we go to leave because we get uncomfortable. And so we get in our car and they follow us to the car and they start looking in our car at us. And our friend has to scare them off and pretend to be straight with his straight guy voice.
Okay, that's a lovely part of rural America that I was really hoping that it'd be you just saw a giant figure like walking by and then you just realized it was your friend who was like 6 foot tall or something.
No, in rural America, I've almost been bit by a copperhead snake.
Oh wow.
I've seen a bear, and our friend got his head sniffed by a black bear while in his tent.
Mhm.
Wasn't Bigfoot. It would have been cool if it was Bigfoot. Saw
So
that
cool.
guy with a hammer who looked angry,
Mhm.
but he was leaving
Yeah.
everybody alone, so to each his own. Got followed around by some randos, and because obviously you stick out. The people know when you're not from their town in those small towns.
Mhm.
And it's very uncomfortable.
I feel it's uncomfortable if you know everyone around you too. Like, have some mystery.
Yeah, it's unfortunately never anything fun, and I never felt unsafe solo hiking in Ohio.
I mean, that is a positive for that because I don't know how many people can repeat that after the last 2 weeks. Where I gotta say, just what broke this story was like official reporting from the Bigfoot Society, and they're like, I checked out their YouTube, and it's mostly just like general Bigfoot curiosity and like research and interviews. This was like full on for this. They have been just, getting witnesses, sending out scholars, like warnings. They've been the kind of community note, and it's been great, but also we're starting to see some divisions and arguments happening within the Bigfoot community.
As it goes.
So we should also mention, as you did, that this coalesced with a meteor shower or asteroid sighting in the same parts of Ohio.
Yep.
So what have you heard down on the ground with your connections back home?
I would say back home everyone was more spooked by the meteor and more excited about that. The Bigfoot thing, everyone's having a good chuckle, a good laugh. They're just like, "Oh, gotta love Bigfoot." It was kind of, I sent Max a news story with a local chiropractor. If you look it up, I think it's one of the first news stories that pop up. He made an AI image of Bigfoot treating some of his patients as a joke for his community members. Gotta love that. uh,
Oh, also, just another attack and slate on Coast to Coast. They not only showed an old interview with him on Coast to Coast, it says like AI was involved to provide context, and it was just this horrible AI Sasquatch photo.
I gotta love that. Gotta love it. So I think from the ground, I don't know if everyone's making the meteor Bigfoot connection or if everyone, because most of my friends and family live now, it's more around the Cleveland area, which there hasn't been too many sightings in that area. But I also read some stories like on Reddit where people were like, and who live in like the Trumbull County, all the counties mentioned, Portage and stuff. They were like, my aunt sees them all the time and lives in the wooded area. She gets their footprints in their backyard, but She says she won't take photos because no one will believe her.
That's such a. I won't get proof because people aren't going to believe me. And it's like, people don't believe you because you don't have proof.
Right, right. And there hasn't been a lot of proof. That's the other thing in this situation. There hasn't been a lot of videos coming out in this, and a lot of people were arguing in the Bigfoot community that it's because, well, when you're just walking along, you're shocked, right? You're like, oh my God, what is that? It's a 10-foot, because we're taking detailed notes too in the reports. We got 8-footers, 10-footers. They're smelling musty. We got reports of how they smell musty. But people are like, you have to understand, when you're out in the woods and you see something that's confusing or weird, your first thought isn't, oh, let me grab my phone and record. It's your brain is trying to figure out, what is this strange creature?
That because they are extra dimensional entities, they have an awareness of the electromagnetic field, which means that when you just set up cams, security cams, or trail cams, they're aware of where they are, so they know to avoid those areas.
And do we think
'Cause-
that since they're aware of everything and they're extra dimensional creatures, they could just fuck with the recording anyway?
It's
they
quite
could still,
possible that they could do that, yeah.
yeah, they walk past them and it's kind of like they're invisible almost. They're just like zip. We are
is-
facing these vegan, super vegan, interdimensional.
Well, that's, if you're to believe Stan Johnson, yes, they are standard hyper vegan awareness. But I do think that this is also a really good thing of, everyone is trying to get on this Bigfoot craze right now of, oh, there have been a bunch of sightings. And this should be the greatest news for the Bigfoot community of the millennium. The problem is that one is these people love to just dine off of what they already have, because it was every time David Paulides started to talk about his origin and his start into Bigfoot researching, it was like the same old bar story that he told a million times before, which is that he used to be, for 20 years, he was a cop with the San Jose Police Department. He got into tech.
Okay.
Okay. And then he said that he had reached a point where he was good with the company. And then they were like, hey, by the way, since you were an investigator, we both had Bigfoot experiences when we were a child. We need you to investigate this completely on your own time, and we are going to fund it all.
Okay.
The other, I think we need to deal with the unfortunate thing of so many people in this community that we want to be a part of and have a voice for. So many of our supposed peers are just way too divorced guys.
Yeah.
Because when David Paulides was talking, he was like, well, I left my executive job to raise my children. That's how he mostly tells the story of I just wanted to be a more present father, blah. The first time he tells it is yeah, so I left my job to be with my family a lot more. And then I had a lot of time just open up. So I decided to, for exactly half of the year, start living on a Native American reservation and get their stories about Bigfoot in Humboldt County.
Okay.
Which, I don't know.
I guess not the worst way to spend your divorce. It shows he's invested in his kids still. It shows
I don't want this to be a commentary at all about Mr. Paulides' status as father or a romantic partner. It is just to note that weird opening up of time and him never referring to a current wife is notable, we'll say.
And that it does seem to be a common occurrence in the Bigfoot community. Well, maybe it's because Bigfoot, the dedication you have to Bigfoot research really puts a
You
strain
can't.
on. Yeah,
You can't.
it really puts a strain on one's relationship.
hmm It's
So,
absolutely that, and these people being selfless and not like, Diane will have to take me back if I prove Bigfoot's real. It's never that.
it's never that.
But I mention that is because over the same span, it is essentially the same story and him relying upon the same elements. And he does the classic thing of too many details sometimes that make something look suspicious. I'm thinking of how the most recent time he told the story, it was in the sense of, like, well, it went from I worked for a tech company after I left the police force to, oh, I was really in with this tech company. And then it's like, oh, they wanted me to do this. And then they didn't know each other, like really starting to stress that these were two parallel incidents. And then, like, for some reason, he said the last is like, yeah, I was working at a startup with these guys. And it's like, why are you mentioning it's a startup now? This is getting a little excessive of just strange details to include. Of like, I ordered a Caesar salad on the day that I was at this very particular meeting.
He just wants to know.
Listen, he just wanted to do that, and he really wanted to stress that, like, I am studying Bigfoot as a detective. And as a detective, I have discovered that Bigfoot are a type of people.
Mm-hmm. They are a type
Essentially
of people.
undiscovered tribe that he was going through. And then so there's that. There
So,
was, yeah, go for it.
oh, I have a clarifying. So, like a type of people like the Neanderthals?
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
And that the reason they avoid us is because there used to be so many hominid species, and then we were so terrible with all of.
But we did blend with the, like, Denisovans and the Neanderthals.
Listen, all I know is that there are people, there's a history of trade, and that theory is coming up. However, I gotta say that despite the fact that this Mr. Palladius character is regularly researching, he's a solid figure. It seems like a good point of, like, maybe the Bigfoot aren't people. Maybe they're a misunderstanding of something.
Uh-oh.
And I think this is where we go into another area where you're an expert. Have you heard the theory that I first heard through a guy called Coach Dave?
Culture's disintegrating.
Hey, pass the salt.
Hey, you, pass the salt.
You know why it's disintegrating? Because we're jellyfish.
Pass the salt, will you?
Pass the salt.
Pass the salt, amigo.
It's time.
I think they could give us a new name. I believe we are Evan jellyfish.
Hey, will you pass the salt?
Pass the salt.
We need salt over here.
It's time for Pass the Salt.
Pass the salt.
But we like to share the gospel without any backbone to it, see?
The views, opinions, and seemingly outrageous comments expressed in this program are based on the Holy Spirit leading of a man called Coach.
I gotta ask you this out there, Christian America.
It's time for Pass the Salt with a Coach, Dave Daubenmire.
And I want to tell you a little bit about this Coach Dave fella. He does a live stream, I think, roughly every day. And what was on Rumble. And what's great is with this one episode, it was already a recording, and he was like making a very big deal about the fact that, like, folks, there's not going to be an after show today because I got an appointment at 8, so I only got an hour for this episode, which is just great. So, according to his own biography, Coach Dave was a regular football coach in the South. And then in the 1970s, he became born again. He's going to be on God's team.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and then
Okay. So
he
I would
he
imagine he believed as a child or something, lost his faith, and
he mentions being born again a lot.
okay, that's it. Okay, so we have no context for what his belief system was before.
Well, I don't really care. I just care about what he believes in now because
Oh.
one, he's one of these people who he left his job as a coach because the woke ACLU was trying to stop him from praying with his students, and he's like, "I'm going to be on God's team. I'm going to be a coach for God's team." And I've decided after I got that, I purposely decided to not look at anything else because it's even funnier. I watched this entire episode, and first of all, he just read. Apparently, he has regulars because he was just like talking to people who it's like had a normal thing in chat, which was great. He had, I don't know if it was a producer or a co-host named like Raymond, who he's like, congratulations on your wedding ceremony. Here's a Bible quote or whatever, which is great. But he promoted the theory as like, folks, how do we know that Bigfoot are not Nephilim?
How do we know?
Well, here's the thing. And shout out to episode, I think 11, Bull Angels is our previous episode where we go in depth on the Nephilim. But think about why we don't have a good picture of Bigfoot. They inspire fear. You're worried. You're in awe and overwhelmed. Maybe. Even a little aroused at the magnetism of what is happening. And what do the Nephilim do? They inspire. They're giants and they inspire.
I'm trying to think. Because for context, if you haven't listened to Bull's Angels, part of the Nephilim lore is that they're, for women specifically, for us girlies, the Nephilim are so, we can't not be attracted to them. We're just so weak in their presence, and they want to procreate with us. So, and we just find them so irresistible. Now, as a monster lover,
yes,
I don't know if Bigfoot is, and I don't know if as we're getting reports out of Ohio, the musty stench is really selling it to me, you know?
Well, here's the thing, though, is I feel, even people who are aroused by, the stank or whatever, it's not just, it's ever present. Part of it is it's tied to a person or like from the activity. Like there's an extra process to it. So do you think that just like on paper, it doesn't sound very appealing to you? But like once you got a whiff of it, you're just like, I cannot stop this Grigori Sasquatch.
I don't know. I think it would have to be the best. It would have to be the Stan Johnson-esque one, the interdimensional with the, they'd have to take me to their interdimensional vegan society. I think that would seduce me.
See, here's the thing. We're talking about straight up the art of seduction. We're not talking about just sheer animal magnetism and charisma.
Right, and that's the tricky part when I think of like the Shadow Man as and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on, he's dead anyway, but who we go over in Bull's Angels are the expert in that episode. I mean, he describes them as like irresistible shadow men. These shadow men are irresistible, and I think they talk about how they hide amongst us. Which I guess theoretically you could say, if they're Nephilim, are they transforming? And then their true forms are a Bigfoot.
Who knows? Or because, as you said, you're a monster girly, the form of beauty is Bigfoot.
Yeah, the musty smell would be hard for me. I will say. It would have to be like, oh, they smell like pine. Like the forest, the woods,
Maybe
a
that's
fire,
just
like a
fire.
campfire.
All of those things could be described as musky from a certain perspective. I'm just saying.
From a certain perspective.
I'm just saying, you don't know. It's not that evocative. It is just a brief description. Who knows what it's going to be like when you get just a waft it. But yeah,
But I will say with what's his name, Pallades, with Coach
yeah.
Dave's theory with Pallades, if we're combining, then we theoretically could mate with the Bigfoot.
Not only could we theoretically, but it's starting to catch on because among I saw two of the Pallades interviews I did were just coast to coast episodes. One
Okay.
with Nori, one with the true, you know, continuer and scion of Coast to Coast, George Knapp of
Mm-hmm.
UFO, and also our John Lear episode introducing us to that wonderful man. But there was another interview that Pallades went on. That was with, let me see if I can find that. It was with a man named L.A. Marzulli, who also holds the theory that the Bigfoot are Nephilim. And what I find great of why I say we're in the enshittification of the Bigfoot era is because Pallades goes on, he tells his like normal bit about like, I think the Bigfoot are people because the Hoopa tribes told me all of these things and blah. And this dude just goes like fascinating. And this fully goes along with my theory that they're Nephilim. And he just goes
Mm.
on about how they are Nephilim. And it's not an interview so much as just two old attention seeking men waiting for their turn to tell their story.
You gotta love that. Because
Yeah.
and then because I would say most, and maybe I'm wrong, but I always thought that most in the Bigfoot community and most in Bigfoot mythology and lore that they're peaceful creatures. And the Nephilim are anything but peace. Most people view them as anything but peaceful.
See, and that's the problem of where I think we may see some issues with this within the Bigfoot community is that the problem is that we've kind of talked about this before is we've locked in, we've picked sides, and the problem is, and I think this speaks to a larger issue we have, is we want to have all of the like Fox Mulder question everything. We want a full appreciation of, oh man, we're going to actually examine what's going on. Fundamentally, we have this like ironclad, fully faithful ideological area where we cannot compromise for. For the modern right, a lot of it is just their weird interpretation of Christianity. Liberals love the concept of institutions and justice, etc. The problem we have there is Bigfoot at its best was the Stan Johnson era of it's just like, here's everything I've experienced. And everyone is just like, Stan Johnson, you are full of shit. Because we all know Bigfoot's not an alien, he's an ape. And yeah, that was somewhat dogmatic, but it is, both of these people were not just like, this is my view. It was, my evidence tells me this. So as weird as it sounds, it was like a scientific debate of like species versus genetic evolution of like, the result is we have a weird Bigfoot creature, but how we have it that's where the fight is. The problem we have now is everyone has to fit it in within this thing of how does Bigfoot coexist with Jesus?
Yeah.
Well, maybe the Bigfoot has been with us longer than we imagine.
Well, and I just can't get behind that Bigfoot is the Nephilim. I think, you're right, Matt. We're trying to adjust our ideas to make it fit in to a very small Christian worldview.
And I think what it is the problem we have is it's forced internal consistency. Stan Johnson's story was here are the details and they happen to fit. And it
Mm-hmm.
was told in the way of like, this is my experience. You know, there was not versions of, and here's a small little other detail that I remember of it being a startup or something. It's just like, here's where it is. And then someone says, you're full of bullshit. They're monkeys. And then he just says like, well, you're full of shit because I hung out with the space Sasquatch. So what are you going to do? I've been to the fifth dimension. And it's like, yeah, okay. You just believe different things. Whereas now it's just people talking around each other. Like there's no debate. It's just like, I found out that Sasquatch was just a secret tribe of Native Americans that sometimes deal with other Native American tribes. And this guy's like, or they're angels. Like that can't coexist. And they're not debating with it each other. They're just like, okay, there's this. I also want to point out another guy who is into it, who I watched several videos of. It's the YouTube channel Cabin in the Woods. And they also, he was trying to do everything at once. He's released multiple videos about Bigfoot, some of which he said, like, here's everything I got wrong about Bigfoot, where he kind of went into Nephilim posting. And though he was a little different, he says, like, I happen to be a Christian, but I'm just asking questions. So let's look at it. So it was less of, I am convinced of this, and more so, let's look at this from an evidentiary perspective. And he did also talk to David Pilatus. He did talk to L.A. Marzulli. But it is just, he just kind of was like, here's where it is. But even still, he was trying to say, like, he then related it to his own Bigfoot experience. And it was less of like, let's apply science to it. It was just like, well, this guy says Bigfoot screams in a weird way, and that's just like the scream I heard in my encounter. Therefore, I must incorporate this theory. And we can't have that nuance. It is always just like, Sasquatch is a Native American and also a Nephilim. And that is how it works. And also responsible for the asteroids in which we got.
Well, I think my theory works, though, if we follow Stan Johnson, because if they're interdimensional space travelers, maybe they were traveling to Ohio because they're like, oh, our spaceship's coming or whatever. A delivery's coming.
Maybe they needed a pilot. And as you know, Ohio per capita has the most number of people who have been to space.
Yeah. They're like, well, our spaceship's coming, or like we're getting a delivery, some more vegan stuff. Pretty sick.
Dope,
Just
yeah.
I don't know, some extra things are coming. So we're all meeting there for our delivery. It's migration season. And the people in Ohio, they're like, it's Ohio. We'll get a little bit of attention. Not a lot, though, because it's Ohio. People don't care that much about Ohio.
But now they do. Now everything has to be answered.
A little bit, but see, there's still division.
There is division, and it has to do with I think this has to do with the atomization and the death of community. We can't have spaces or compartmentalization anymore. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that, that this rise in like Bigfoot Nephilim posting goes along where Coach Dave, who's by all accounts just like, everybody love Jesus, here's my stream, and I hate Democrats. Like that type of thing. I don't think it's a coincidence that like he's talking about it is because we have this thing where everyone has to have a take on something.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's these weird Bigfoot things. And also because it is like this weird uniformity of like, I can't say I'm surprised that all the granola moms are now Trump supporters and everything,
No.
but it is like I see it, but it is like, what? Why? If other than like the supposed like rebellious look or whatever, it is just because it's like the mainstream doesn't like him, so I'm going to support him. It's not this actual ideological understanding, but you have to tie into it. You have to pick sides, and you have everyone. Which goes to the another thing is probably my favorite thing talking about it is you had Cabin in the Woods, which is like a series of various documentaries kind of examining Bigfoot. You had the Bigfoot Society, like interviewing witnesses, talking about the situation, explaining what they were going to do, and offering advice of how research should be done in order to kind of involve this. You have all these people talking, but my favorite has to be a show from Badlands Media, which I also saw on Rumble because I hate myself. And it was, for those who don't know, I believe Badlands Media is like a Q adjacent, like creator collective or something, or it's just a bunch of Q people like making their shows and stuff. And there was one that was just like a lady talking about Bigfoot, and then it was great because she had a guest on, and then the guest was late. He's like, I forgot what time it was. I was just eating dinner. Yeah, and it's like, and she's like, "Oh, what'd you do for dinner?" It's pulled pork. My wife's away, so I just ate a bowl of meat. And it's like, what is this? Just as a show, it was great. But then it's just they were like going like, "Man, this Bigfoot stuff's weird." Anyway, remember when Laura Loomer sued me, which was just fantastic. Of these people talking that it's like, "Man, Bigfoot's weird," but they didn't have that drive. They didn't have that passion to just be like, what does this mean for Bigfoot or that type of thing? And it's more just like, this is the thing to talk about. Let's engage with it.
They're not passionate about the cryptid community. They're not passionate about Bigfoot himself. They do not study the field of hominology, which is the study of Bigfoot. Where's the degree? Where is your PhD in hominology?
And listen, folks, despite us both having graduate degrees, we are not the literati. We are not a part of some ironclad thing. We despise titles. However, if you do not have certification, you got to show passion or dedication.
Right.
You can't
Where's
just
your
be.
passion? And
Listen, I don't need to know about your history of lawsuits with Laura Loomer unless it's because you called her a Sasquatch. All right.
right. We need passion because you can critique Stan Johnson's take on the Sasquatch, but you cannot critique his passion. You cannot deny that man's passion for the Sasquatch, for the Bigfoot. You can't deny that. For the love.
I don't know if I believe Stan Johnson, but I trust Stan Johnson.
I believe that Stan believes.
I 100% believe that Stan believes. And that's the problem ultimately, is people are just willing, like, it is, we're locking ourselves on. We don't have the nuance to actually explore and understand what something is for the sake of understanding it. We see it with, like, Bigfoot hunting shows. Like, make them specials. Don't make it a yearly thing. Just be like, this is our expedition. Here's a documentary on it.
Right, unless you want to pay Max and I to be to have our own Bigfoot hunting show, because I will. You can pay me to live in the woods for half the year to hunt Bigfoot. I promise I will do my damnedest to find
We
the
will
Bigfoot.
change a lot of our stances about working for the government as it is currently structured if the Parks Department just says, like, just hang out in national parks and talk about Bigfoot. Absolutely. I don't care if that's state propaganda. It's the state propaganda we both need and deserve.
Yes, and we'll hunt for other cryptids too, because I want to believe, and we do. We're lacking some of that good evidence, and that is one of the disappointing things we've seen. We had a lot of the sightings come out of Ohio, but we still miss a lot of video opportunities.
Here's the thing is, and I don't know how much of this is a combination of how grifters have hurt the movement. And this is true of any movement, is you have it so people who are grifting like put into certain positions that creates a lot of doubt. So what you should be doing if you're the Bigfoot Society or whatever is like, we have gotten these reports. Here's the studies we've been able to find. Here's the work and research we are going to do. And here's the chain of evidence. Here's what we have in order to do this. Instead, they have to take a jump ahead and they have to be like, well, here's why we might not have any pictures. And that's you're starting from a place of defeat. You need to start off with like, here's the evidence we do have. Let's go on to it. Because you know how we know O.J. Simpson is allegedly guilty of a horrible crime? It's not because we have a video of him doing the crime. It's because we have other evidence that has been used to create a narrative that for most people goes beyond a reasonable doubt that this is likely what happened. You must do that with Bigfoot. Don't be like, well, here's why there's no pictures. It's just like, here's the case. I think it's Bigfoot.
Yeah, which I think some of the, we did get some with the sightings, because what in Ohio is the reports, we had multiple reports of, I think they varied from 6 to 10 feet. What creature is that tall? We don't have, there's black bears in Pennsylvania, and sometimes they wander their way in, but even a black bear isn't that big. We don't have any grizzlies. We don't have a lot of creatures. We have coyotes, but coyotes are small. I think coyotes are a lot smaller than people think they are. And they aren't Bigfoot shaped. I'm trying to think of other creatures we have. It's Ohio. We don't have we have boring animals.
And also, let's be real here. The coyote is a much better claim of the chupacabra.
Right.
And we're not seeing chupacabra. We're seeing the Bigfoot. And that's what I'm saying is like, let's just see. Let's deal with the uncertainty. Let's just get the best evidence we can. And the problem is this surge of distrust in authority is not for that. And like I said, we're going back to the Gnostic stuff because we can't entertain an interesting idea. We can't just say, let's have some contradictory ideas as long as they don't. We only have to deal with the contradictions if they directly clash with one another. Why does Bigfoot have to be in the Bible? You know what's not in the Bible? A crocodile. You know what I know is real? Crocodiles.
Yeah, I don't need the Nephilim to be anywhere closely associated with. We do not, from any biblical evidence we have of the Nephilim, all you got on your side is giants, but they're not described as ape-like or anything. So I do not want I don't want my Bigfoot associated with the Nephilim, especially because from our reports of the Bigfoot, I feel like we have enough evidence to suggest that the Bigfoot are peaceful creatures.
Exactly.
We know this. And the Nephilim are not.
No, not at all.
And so I don't like conflating the two.
I think it's not just a matter of this direct conflation, but again, it is. You know what it is? It's American Christians just wanting their cake and eating it too. It is why, just faith in this country is so weird. It is because we've been too tolerant of well, my system says this, and therefore it's cool, we can just fit it in. We lack the ability to say, like, no, this is our system, and if there's a problem with the system or the structure, we need to directly challenge that if we want to make it work, or we need to just stay firm and committed. And listen, I don't want to be one to say censorship is good or anything, but let me just say this is it may have seemed crazy and extreme back when we were children for evangelicals
Mhm.
to say Harry Potter is the devil and you shouldn't support it. But low key, they called it. If you support Harry Potter, you are supporting the cause of evil. And,
Mhm.
they called it. They're not like, how can we have Jesus and wizards? No. And that is the problem now. It is, how do we take this thing, this uncertainty, this evidence that we have in front of us and make it work? It's not, wow, everything I believed in is a lie. Maybe I should take a look. Like, people can't do it moderately. It's like nothing matters or only this one thing matters. And that is how you get a guy where you just look at it, it's like, well, there's all these Bigfoot sightings. I believed evolution is a lie, so let's just put Bigfoot in there too. If Bigfoot exists and evolution doesn't exist, then Bigfoot have to be this other thing.
Mhm.
And it is also it is so funny. It is just like without, and again, this we have to have an opinion on everything. It goes into. Do you know what I've heard on multiple streams and videos I watched? What I heard multiple people say was the most corrupt institution in the United States government right now.
Which one is that?
I want you to guess. This is so we can do a comparison.
Okay. The Congress?
Oh no, the Smithsonian Institute.
Oh. What?
Yeah,
The
the Smithsonian.
Smithsonian?
They've lied about our history. They've covered up and created
Oh,
fake
fuck.
evidence, don't you see? Yeah. Oh god. And it's just like it's to put this lie of what it is, because if we believe the history of the Smithsonian, then we can't believe in history. And it is just like, understand narrative if it's like, oh man, how come the Smithsonian doesn't talk about all of the horrible crimes we've done in the founding of this country?
Mhm.
It's like, because that makes us look really bad, and we don't want to admit we did this, especially to the children who are like going on. We just want to say, bad things happened. Here's our exhibition. Or
Yeah.
you can't be like, we have to respect the office of the presidency and then actually talk about some of the people who have been president. Like,
Mhm.
we've had, I think we've had at least one illiterate president.
Yeah. If not more.
There's, if not, yeah, I believe
If not multiple.
famously it was Zachary Taylor who only cast one ballot. He only voted once in his entire life, and it was for himself to become president. He also died because he ate too much fruit and iced milk on like a 4th of July celebration. So he shit himself to death.
A lot of people went that way back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are still shitting themselves today.
Yeah, but that's just because we cut funding to anti-shitting
Yeah.
medication overseas.
True.
But that's the thing,
True.
though, is just the incredible idiocy and just, we had a dude who died because he didn't wear a coat. He died a month into office. And then, of course, just again, constitutions is this great thing. And I just always point to when Harrison died, there was like a legitimate question of who was going to become president because a president hadn't died in office before. And they said, oh, the Constitution actually doesn't tell us who should be next, technically. There's a line of succession of like that explicitly says the vice president is number 2, but it doesn't say that the vice president becomes president if the person ahead of them dies. So we were just like, oh no, we'll figure it out.
We love that. And that explains America.
Just, I mean, Andrew Jackson shot how many people in duels? Like,
Oh,
I think one was when he was president. Just the petty backbiting. Yeah, it's just, yeah. But you have to have this respect for this dumb institution, and it is also just how much just everyone was like, the Smithsonian is lying to you, which is like, yeah, no, our education system does tell a very specific version of our history that is very propagandistic. So yeah, come with it from distrust, but that doesn't mean that like we're secretly trying to rewrite your understanding of history to do it.
right. And their version of history is to have it even be more propagandistic than it already is.
It's
So it's not like they want an honest telling anyway.
it's just, what are you trying to get out of it? And I guess I think we can kind of end on just maybe just us turning into just attacks, or I'll let you say it, of just how Ohio has ruined the country. But have you heard what JD Vance, what his next big project is?
I've probably heard of it. I think I blocked it out.
Yeah, he's writing a book about what it's like to rediscover faith as an adult.
Uh,
It's called
to
Communion.
rediscover to become a trad calf as a
Which is, again, and I'm not going to be too harsh, but this episode may have just turned into like, why does Ohio have to ruin everything? But sightings. And then you have a bunch of people from Kentucky. It's like, I know that area. They're Nephilim. And it's just like, let's just have some fun. Let's get some local tourism to that part of Ohio. And I bring in JD Vance because it's so easy to like, it's so easy to just be a non-denominational, like hardcore conservative Catholic. And, we're past the era. Like, if you're a major evangelical, figure, quote unquote mainstream, you can't say Mormonism is evil anymore, or the perfidious nature of the papist. Like, that's gone. You're just like, the Bible, that's the thing. And now they're just like trying to just ruin everything, because it is like, you can do that, but no, people are still converting to Catholicism. When I guess what annoys me most about it is like, I'm going to become a Catholic, and the only thing I'm going to do is complain about how woke the church is.
Yeah, like take out all the fun parts.
It's just, it is like, what are you doing? It's not just that you're like, we've talked about this before, but it's just like, cool, I get to join this cool anti-abortion club. Oh, wait, they actually are pro-life because they're against the death penalty and like caring for poor people and stuff. They ultimately became anti-abortion not because of this weird drive to like have an otherized group. They just have poorly implemented an ethos they've had for hundreds of years. Oh, this sucks. And then and then they just have to throw in all of this stuff. And then I also want to bring in JD Vance is like, do you know what he thinks the UFOs are?
What does he think the UFOs are?
They're demons.
I mean, I guess that one guy did also think the Nephilim were space demons, so, or they could traverse.
There's
that
so much.
Heaven and hell are actual places in our universe, not a place you go to after you die, like not a other place. They're within space.
And that's another thing of like, I'm going to become a Catholic and call aliens demons, when it's like, I think the formal Catholic response is just like, I don't know, God's love and creativity is infinite, so maybe there are aliens. Let's just focus on here and do science stuff. Like, that's the Catholic position. Like, why do you need to do this thing to explain? They're just like, I don't know, something weird happened. God knows, we'll figure it out. No, you don't need to have an opinion on aliens. And it's also just so insincere of just like, it is just the cred of just like, I want to be part of these weird clubs and focus on these things. And it's just so, it ruins everything. You're not making religion cool. You're not helping with any of this disclosure stuff. And then you're just making it weird and then just constantly it's just, and again, going back to like the Epstein files, it's just like, let's release all this stuff and then not follow through with any of the theories or what. It's just like, oh man. Yeah. It's just so, just this refusal to just like actually commit to something, to actually say, this is where we stand, this is who we are.
Yeah. The refusal to commit, the refusal to enjoy. And really, I think it's also the joy of having fun, of celebrating, of embracing Bigfoot, you know? Because there's fear in there. They are afraid of what they don't understand. They're afraid of Bigfoot.
They're afraid that something doesn't fit. And that's it just goes to the fear of us to just like secular, just weirdos who are just like, I don't know if I believe in God, but ghosts and Bigfoot, let's see what's up. I'm interested in learning something.
I'm interested.
Yeah. I also just like, it's ruined. It's just like, hey, I think I've seen a ghost. Ooh, ghost story. Go on. But as soon as you try and like force it into your worldview, it just becomes this like, I saw a ghost and it was my dead mother telling me to find Jesus. It's like, that's not fun.
I can end us, Max. I did forget one story I have from when I was a teenager.
Ooh, yes. Let's end on an actual
I will end
fun
this.
Bigfoot note.
A fun story of a creature we encountered, a creature we don't know to this day what it was. So, my friends and I, it was the summer after our senior year. We're graduating. We're all going off to college. We're camping in our friend's father's backyard because he didn't want a bunch of teenagers in his house, apparently, which I guess is fair. And his house was in this small town by Cuyahoga Valley National Park, by the train tracks. Some of you might know these train tracks. There's a wine train. They're not too busy. So at night, what a group of like 4 of us did was sneak off. Not really sneaking off because half of us are like 18 at this point. But we went off and would walk the train tracks at night to sneak onto this golf course and go stargazing. So we're walking these train tracks, and you know, both sides of us, the train tracks are kind of in this like ditch. So both sides of us, it's just like trees. They go up, so we have to crawl up the side to get to the golf course. We're walking. All of a sudden, we hear this weird like creature running, coming from the top. We hear, and we're like, "What the fuck is that?" We freeze. We see it come running. It comes running down the hill and onto the train tracks and starts beelining right at us, hissing and yelling the whole time. Can't see it. Don't see it at all. You know what I do? There was our one friend with us, the only guy with us. I grab him. I sacrifice him. I take him and I shove him at it. And I took my friend and my girlfriend and I throw her behind me to protect her. Then that was my instinct. That was like my panic. I said, the only male in the group, sacrifice you to the creature. And it runs at us. Well, now he's in the front. So it runs at him. And at the last second, still the whole time just going, the last second, and turns, runs back up and disappears. It was about the size of a like 14-pound dog.
So chupacabra.
What was it? So yeah, chupacabra maybe.
And thank you for confirming my belief of both the perfidious nature of both papists due to your Italian heritage and lesbians.
I really, my instinct really said sacrifice the only male in your group.
Mm-hmm. And that's why Trump won.
Hey, isn't that what men are supposed to do? That's what you're there for. You
Oh,
want to be
okay.
strong.
No, I just want to get
Protectors.
high and hang out with Bigfoot.
You want to be the protectors of the group. I was given an opportunity, right? Here's your opportunity to
right.
prove your worth. Here's the opportunity to prove your worth. Go.
All right. Well, in order to prove my worth, I will do a quick thing. And if Candace Owens has talked about Bigfoot, I will watch the episode and clip it to close out the episode.
Okay. Our followers will love that. Or our hate watchers.
It's interesting because we haven't really talked about anything hateable. So.
True,
Oh, I
true.
guess if we just want to do engagement, part 2 of this episode will be our thoughts on Elizabeth Warren's endorsement of Graham Plattner and the edit women have been receiving on Survivor 50. I'm sure that will be our totally non-controversial, and no one on the internet will be mad at us for whatever we say
No.
about those two things.
No, no one will hate that at all.
But for American Dreamland, I'm Max Chavez.
And I'm Misty Stone.
And
yeah, I still haven't watched the last episode.